Matt Rife is in a lot of trouble. The comedian Matt Rife, he's blown up on TikTok. He's the unbelievably handsome crowd work guy. He's got something insane, like 17 million followers just on TikTok. I think he's got a few million on Instagram and then another few million on YouTube. Like, the guy is unbelievably massive. I don't think we've ever seen a comedian become this famous this fast in the history of comedy ever. And it's all through just crowd work clips, which, as we know, is the meta right now, popularized by Andrew Schultz and others. But he's like the guy that has really perfected it. And he's in a lot of trouble at the moment because he just released a comedy special on Netflix, and a lot of people are very unhappy with not just the jokes that he's told, but also the response to the criticism for the jokes that he told. And I figured I would talk about it because I'm obviously one of the best positioned to speak about this as a recently handsome comedian. Because obviously Matt Rife, if you look at photos of him from the early days, he was an ugly boy, but he became really handsome. You look at photos of me from the early days, I was an ugly boy. I recently became even more handsome than Matt Rife. I think we can all agree. Like, I haven't posted a crowd work clip since the surgery. I'm telling you, when I film that first show and I get a crowd work clip, people are gonna I'm getting to 18 million followers. All right, TikTok's gonna delete Matt Rife's account when they see my jawline. Isn't that frustrating that I'm the one that had the incredibly intensive major double jaw surgery, and that is still much more attractive? I want my money back. It's bullshit. And you know what is even more frustrating? He was uglier than I was. So what's going on? Give me Matt Rife's surgeon. But anyway, into the controversy. He's got into a lot of trouble because on his Netflix special that just came out, he starts his show with a joke about domestic violence. I'm gonna butcher it if I reference it, but it's something along the lines of he's in a horrible area, like a really rough area. He's talking about violence there already, and it's a really rough area. He goes into like a diner and he gets served by a woman with a black eye, and he feels sorry for her, and he goes, his friend goes, oh man, maybe they should keep her back in the kitchen. And he goes, oh, well, if she was in the kitchen, she wouldn't have the black eye. Like, if
she knew how to cook, she wouldn't
have a black eye, which is like, it's an all right joke. It's not super hilarious, but it is more of like a litmus test for the crowd of like, I'm going to go dark on this one, or I'm going to push the boundary a little bit. And so Matt Rife, his audience are women. Like, huge, giant proportion of his audience are chicks. And he said this as well. He said that for a really, really long time, 90% of his in-person audience, the people that bought tickets, women. And it's only been like slightly recently that some men are attending, and a lot of those men are boyfriends. So he's like a woman's comic. So a lot of women are disappointed by this joke because it's at the expense of a horrible issue that mostly affects women. Some men as well, but it's mostly women. And he responded to this criticism, right? Now, I didn't laugh very much at the DV joke. I almost cried at his response to people complaining about it. So he puts out his special. It starts with a domestic violence joke. Huge controversy ensues, and he posts on his Instagram story a nice photo of him performing stand-up with a link. And he says, if anyone is offended by the special, hit this link. I tap on the link and it just takes you to a store that sells helmets for special needs people. And I lost it. That's a good one. I wasn't so sure about the initial joke, not because I was offended by it. I just thought it was kind of obvious. The special needs one, that's my bag. I like that. That's very funny. And people have lost it even more. Everyone's, all I'm seeing on Twitter is people just hating on Matt Rife, saying that he's a piece of shit for not just the initial joke, but for also doubling down on it and this new joke. I think it's really interesting because I think that he's doing it on purpose. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if it plays out to be the right move, because I think what's happening is if you just put aside, let's imagine Matt Rife's a business, right? He's completely cornered his market, like the demographic that he naturally attracts. He's dominated it, right? He's just women. He's young women. They love him. There's no real room for growth there. He's done it. He's conquered it. The only audience that he wasn't really touching is men. Specifically like 18 to 30-year-old men. A lot of dudes do like him and a lot of dudes do find him funny, but when you do look at Matt Rife, you think for girls. So it seems like if let's just imagine that this is a business decision. It seems like he's gone, all right, my growth here is done. To continue growing, I need to attract a brand new type of customer, and I know that they like this type of stuff. And he's done a lot of interviews as well that I've watched. I've watched a lot of his interviews because I'm just fascinated by his business and how he's been able to grow. It's like truly, you've never seen anything like it before. You almost haven't seen it in any entertainment field at all. Like maybe some musicians have blown up on TikTok the way that he has, but even then, I don't know if they're selling tickets like he is. The amazing benefit of crowd work clips is it shows off your comedic ability, but it doesn't burn your material. When you're a stand-up comedian, it takes months sometimes to write like 3 minutes because you have to test it, you have to try it out, and every time you test it, you got to chop and change it until it's perfect, and then your joke is done, and then you might have a tour that goes on for a year. If you post that joke that you spent months writing, if you post it online, you can't do it again. You can't perform it live. People have seen it. It's not like music where if you spend months writing your song, you put it on the album and then people want to hear it again and again and again. Jokes don't work like that. So you can't release your material until the tour is over. But even when the tour is over, if you want to record a comedy special, you can't release those jokes either. So say you might spend 2 years touring one show. The big comics do it for 2 years. And then if they were to release that show online, now they can't do a special because they have no material. So you have to, material's like precious. It's like gold. So crowd work, it's pretty much the only thing that you can release regularly that will never happen again. Like I'm never going to talk to that specific electrician ever again who's sitting in the front row. And even if I do, the conversation will be different. So I can just release that if it's funny and it will get my name out there. It will show people that I'm funny. And when they come to the show, they won't see that again. So they'll be like, oh man, I got what I paid for. So that's the benefit of it, is it showcases your ability to be funny without ruining the show for people who would buy tickets. The negative side of it is sometimes people think that's what your show is. Like that's the whole show is just you talking and freestyling, which it rarely ever is. Like crowd work, I don't know, when a comic is really, really on fire out of an hour show, they might do 10, maybe 15 minutes of crowd work. Like, and that's heaps. Sometimes it's more, like I've done full shows where I wasn't feeling it, so I've done no crowd work. Or I've tried to do crowd work and it hasn't really worked out, so maybe we've got a good minute and a half. And then I've done some shows where I've done like 30 minutes because I was just on a fucking roll. But like as a standard, maybe like 10, 15 minutes. And when you do crowd work and you post it online, I remember talking to Andrew Schultz about this back in 2019. He and I were complaining that sometimes people show up to the shows to get into the clip. They want to be part of the clip. And that never works because if you're talking to someone who's like trying to make the clip, it's fake, it's unnatural, it's weird. So I think with Matt Rife, he's done so brilliantly these crowd work clips and has blown up like that people kind of, the reason why he's gotten in trouble is people expect one thing from him and they received another because, you know, people don't know him for his material, and it's pretty hard to do really dark crowd work because it's pretty rare that you talk to someone about a really dark subject when you're doing crowd work. Like if you have a brilliant joke about domestic violence, right, that you've written and it's genuinely funny, you can say that, but it's unbelievably rare that you would talk to someone in the front row and they would open up about their experience with that, and then you would be quick enough on your feet and sensitive enough to tell a few jokes. So I think that what has happened is, you know, generally when you do crowd work, it is lighter. It is like a lot more relatable. It is friendly. and it is a lot more, a lot less like brutal and edgy, because that's just the nature of the conversations that you have. Sometimes some crazy things happen. Like I've spoken to like trans people, and we've gotten into some really deep stuff that's like, you know, really heavy, but also really funny. But that's super fucking rare. So I think that is, often the issue with crowd work is that when that's the only thing that you're posting, sometimes your crowd work is completely different from your material, because you're just bouncing off like a stranger that is so completely unlike you, the performer. That's where the funniness lies. So I think that what's really interesting about this is because, you know, Matt Rife's had his big Netflix moment, his audience is going to check out his material, and a lot of them are really shocked that that's what his material is. But I think that this is good for Matt Rife. It could be good, it could be bad. I think that what he's trying to do, again, going back to the business analogy, I think that he's trying to appeal to a new audience, an audience that he wasn't really touching or appealing to naturally through his crowd work. His material will catch that. However, it is going to alienate a lot of his core audience, which is like girls on TikTok who are watching him. They think he's really cute and handsome, and they're kind of projecting this idea of him onto him. They see him in his nice outfits, and he looks really handsome, and he looks like a sweet, cute boy, and he's talking to girls in the crowd, and he's really open and playful and fun and sweet and nice, but really funny. And so they think that this guy could never write jokes about things that I might feel uncomfortable about. But that's not what's happened. I just think that it's a really interesting reaction, and I think it really says so much about how we can project onto people that we like or people that we think we know. I think is the big negative reaction is not just, oh, you're a piece of shit for making these jokes. The big negative reaction is, I'm disappointed in you. And that means that I thought you were here, but you're actually there. And it's like, well, why did you think he was here? Did you ever watch any of his material? Because he has a few comedy specials on YouTube that are quite funny. Are these people that are upset and angry and disappointed in him, did they ever watch the material? If the answer is no, those people probably weren't going to see a show, because you would think that if you're the type of person to buy a ticket to the guy's show, you would make the effort over to YouTube and watch the free 40-minute comedy special that he's put out there. So if he does burn these people, I don't think it'll be bad for business. I think it'll be good, because you are actually seeing a huge reaction to this controversy and his refusal to apologize, and even, you know, pushing back and pushing even further as his response. You're seeing, like I see on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, I'm seeing a really, really hugely negative response, but I'm seeing a huge, nah, fuck them, I like this guy now, from an entirely new demographic of dudes. If we're being real, it's just guys who didn't dislike him, but looked at him and saw his fans and were like, oh, that's not for me. Clearly, this isn't being marketed towards me. Now it is. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out, and I think it will play out really well. I mean, it's just a really loud vocal minority of people who probably, if they went to a show, would fucking hate it. Obviously, because they're seeing his material and they're hating it. So I guess we'll see how it plays out in the long term. But I think it will play out really well for him. But another interesting take I saw from Anthony Jeselnik, of all people, and I don't know if he was specifically talking about Matt Rife. You know how on TikTok people post clips from like 5 years ago and kind of imply that the person is talking about current event?
Yeah.
And people go, oh my God, when did he say this about this other celebrity? And it's like, dude, this was from 5 years ago. This person wasn't even a celebrity when that person was talking about this issue where they happened to converge on. But Anthony Jeselnik was talking about this. He said something really interesting. He was quoting Andy Warhol. He said,
and all these comics now, it's like almost the point is to get in trouble. It's like, why are you giving me shit? I'm a comic. I'm allowed to say whatever I want. That's wrong, as far as I'm concerned. Art.
Oh, wait, say it again so I don't miss it.
People think like, oh, as a comic, your job is to get in trouble. And so, but they don't want to get yelled at. It's like, it's okay to make people mad, but they don't want any pushback. And I think that's wrong. As a comedian, you want to make people laugh. This is a quote attributed to Andy Warhol that I love. It's just, art is getting away with it. You know, if you put out a special and everyone's pissed, like, you didn't get away with it. You know, you need to make everyone laugh that they're like, yeah, you talked about some fucked up stuff, but we're all happy. That's art. Otherwise, you're just a troll.
Now, the artist's job is to get away with it. And he said that a lot of comedians, and I do think this is true, a lot of comedians will go out there and they'll talk about getting cancelled, and they'll talk about backlash as if it's like a badge or something to be proud of, or even worse than that, they'll go out there and they'll try to get cancelled, or they'll talk about, I am trying to offend people, or I am trying to make people hate me. I'm trying to get cancelled. But that's kind of a shit comedian. That's a comedian that like your goal first and foremost should be to make people laugh, to do jokes about darker things and get away with it, to do these jokes and be like, yeah, but it's fine because it was so funny, or because it showed understanding. And I think that's true. I think that to push back a little bit on that, though, is like, it is also inevitable to piss people off. Like, it's especially when you're joking about darker things and things that Jeselnik has talked about a lot in his shows. It's like, it's absolutely inevitable to piss people off. Like this guy, Anthony Jeselnik, got a whole TV show pretty much cancelled for celebrating a dude who was eaten by a shark like the week it happened. And I thought it was funny. But also, so many people would not. Like, so many people would get angry at that. But I think it all goes back to, like, your intention should always be to make people laugh. Like, first and foremost, like, that's the goal. Like, I am actually never happy when people are offended. Like, I don't like that. I understand that it's an inevitable part of what I do, and what every comedian does is it really doesn't matter how silly your jokes are. Someone's going to get their feelings hurt, but I don't think that should ever be the goal. I think a lot of comedians, especially the younger ones, and especially the ones who see, like, you know, the power of being quote unquote cancelled, it's a marketing tool. And I think they'll see that and they'll go, oh, I'm going to try and offend people. And it's like, nah, man, like, you're a comedian. You should try to make people laugh. And then offended people are kind of like an unfortunate casualty. It's never something that I'm excited about. Like, when I got protested, I was like, this is great PR. It sucks that they're so upset. Like, I don't like that. It sucks that they couldn't understand or see my side. And I had to look at the jokes that I told, and I was like, oh, were they just fucked? And I was like, no, I think that I'm in the right here. I think they're fine. But yeah, I think that also is a really interesting point where I think that as a comedian, you can go too far on the edgy side of things and, like, really I push the boundaries and I'm a dark comedian and I'm super edgy. And it's like, you can do those things and you can be edgy, but, like, you have to be funny. Like, that's a non-negotiable, because otherwise you're just going to go up there, and if you really want to be a super dark, edgy comic, just go up there in blackface and say slurs. Like, then you're really pushing the boundaries and offending snowflakes. But are you being funny? And I say that as someone who has used controversy so much in my career and have actively stoked it as well. Like, I've done this, but I've only ever done it as a secondary. It's always been my priority to write the best, funniest, most well-written jokes that I possibly can. And, you know, even, you know, I'm still learning and I'm still trying to do that. And I still feel like my taste is so much further ahead of my ability of, like, I want to be here, but I'm currently here. And I don't think you really get good at comedy until you're in your 50s. You look at the GOATs, it's like Bill Burr, Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle, Joan Rivers was at her funniest when she was like fucking 70, rolling around on stage. Her bones were falling off her body, you know? So I think that it is a really interesting thing because people are so upset at Matt Rife, right? Or a minority of people are very upset at Matt Rife. But I would kind of ask the question of what is the alternative for him? So either he can just, because you never want to be like beholden to your audience. You never want to be held hostage as an artist. This goes for all art forms, music, this or that. I mean, Andre 3000 just released, he's one of the greatest rappers of all time. And he just came out and was like, fuck it, I'm releasing an album where I play the flute, no vocals. You know, and a lot of people are angry and upset about that. But it's like if he was scared of his audience, he would just create shit, disingenuous rap that he didn't care about. He was only making it to appease fans or to not get in trouble for pushing himself creatively. So the alternative for Matt Rife is he has this huge, massive blow-up moment. He gets his Netflix special and he thinks, what are young girls on TikTok going to enjoy? I need to write jokes for that audience. But if you're writing material like that, like before you even write a joke, you're thinking, what are girls going to like, or what are African Americans aged 35 to 55 going to enjoy? Like if you're thinking about demographics and types of people before you even start writing anything, or the commercial viability, or if you're going to offend, or if people are going to like it, you're not going to write anything. And what you do write is going to suck. So the alternative would be for him to release like a really boring comedy special of material that's been like vetted by demographics and made to appeal for an audience that he's already completely won over and already hitting. And I would argue that if he ticked all of these boxes that all of these people are upset at him for not hitting, the guy would probably just get panned for releasing a boring special. Like, it's better on TikTok. We've seen this. You have to evolve, and you have to push yourself, and you have to, you know, expand creatively. And the guy is still, like, for a comedian, he's young as fuck. And he's only recently become this unbelievably famous. Like, I screenshotted it. It was so inspiring. When his Netflix special came out, he posted a screenshot of an Instagram story from an archive. You know, when you can go into your archives and you look at your stories that you've posted on Instagram. 18 months ago, he took a photo of a crowd. It was like maybe 60 people, empty seats fucking everywhere, having a great time, but he would be making no money, you know? And I saw that and I was like, that is the most beautiful, inspiring thing to see how this dude has completely changed the entire trajectory of the rest of his life in 18 months by posting just crowd work clips or just stand-up clips. And yeah, I just think that this crazy, huge, intense backlash is from people who, yeah, I mean, if they were to attend his shows, wouldn't like it anyway. So he is going to lose probably a really big chunk of his current crowd. But I think those people would never have liked him. And also a lot of people that I'm seeing criticize him are saying shit like, I knew there was a reason why I didn't like him. And that is the lamest shit ever. And I'm seeing that more and more and more whenever someone blows up, especially when they blow up in a quick amount of time, or if they're like a recently famous person, people are just like waiting to take it away from them. They're waiting for that controversy. They hate them and they're looking for a reason. It's like, I fucking hate you and I can't wait to find out why. It's like, if you don't like someone and you don't know why, like, you're actually a really shit person. Like, do you hate their success? Do you hate that they're happy and you're not? Like, the problem lies within your soul. If you're the type of person to look at someone who's successful and you dislike them before you even understand why, it's like, that's not what a well-functioning, well-balanced human does. You're the piece of shit in this scenario. I knew it. I knew they were a bad person. I hated them for 18 months and finally I have a reason, which is just like them going, oh, finally, I don't have to feel like an asshole for disliking this person. It's like, that's such a weird thing to celebrate is, yes, a controversy. I have a reason to hate them now. Instead of going, I don't like them. Why? I don't know. So yeah, I just think it's really interesting. I'll be very interested to see how it pans out. But I can't see it going poorly. I think it's the best thing possible that could have happened, because when you get the Netflix special, like when you are an entertainer that gets like the opportunity, if you're a musician, maybe it's getting a Grammy or whatever, like all of your fans who already like you, who you've already sold, are like so super proud of you that the only way to kind of grow beyond that and get even more eyes on the achievement, releasing the album, releasing the Netflix special, celebrating the award, the TV show, the movie, the whatever it is getting people who either don't know who you are or do know who you are but aren't sold on you yet, is getting those people to pay attention. And with, usually to get more eyes, controversy. There's no such thing as bad press. And yeah, I mean, I'm talking about it. Everyone's talking about it, and it's just making a bunch of people, like all these TikToks that have like millions of views that are trashing the guy. The comment section is full of, never heard of him, I have to watch it now. Never liked him, but I do now. Or I've got to check it out, and that's great for Netflix. They're going to look at the numbers and be like, holy shit, we've got one. We got a new guy who can actually get people to move from one platform to ours and watch the thing, even if it's only for 20 minutes and then they hate it and they turn it off. That's a huge win for Netflix. That's a huge win for Matt Rife. And now, he just has more story to talk about. I can probably guarantee you he'll be posting clips responding to this controversy. It's a machine that feeds itself, this stuff, especially with comedy. But I do think that it can be really lame to just be like, yeah, that's right, I offended people and that was my goal. It's like, that should never be the goal as an entertainer. Like, I think it's really weird when comedians do it. And that would be like when a musician puts out an album and is like, I hope people fucking hate it. It's like, no, you don't. You want people to like it. It's just an amusing collateral damage when someone's offended by a joke. It's kind of how I think about it, of like, oh, that's a shame that not only you didn't find it funny, but it actually hurt your feelings. That's never something that I'm like proud of. But I do understand that it is inevitable, especially when you're playing with like the more dark, dangerous stuff that I like writing about. But yeah, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys think about this whole controversy. What do you think about it?
I don't think the joke was that bad, and people are taking it out of proportion. There was a joke, I don't remember what it was because I watched it on Sunday. There was a joke probably 15 minutes after that one that was kind of edgy that no one's talking about.
I just had this thought now, listening to you say it, is I wonder how much of this controversy is just because it was in the first 10 minutes. Like, I really wonder if he took that very same joke and put it towards the end, would anyone have even noticed it? Because
yes,
as we all know, right, it doesn't matter what platform you upload. Netflix is the same, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, podcast, whatever. The average view time of anything you put out is pretty much 50%. And apparently on Netflix, it's more like 15, 20 minutes. So it's a really interesting question of like, are people only really upset because anyone who clicked on it definitely saw that bit? Would it have hit way less hard or had much less controversy if he put it at minute 20 and, I don't know, 60 to 70% of people didn't even see it? It's an interesting question of like, that matters so much. Like, generally, if I have a really dark joke, I probably won't start with it. I'll put it towards the end of the show, kind of build up rapport with the audience. How much of this intensely negative reaction from some people was just because he didn't do the courtesy rapport of, I'm a silly guy, this is all jokes, here's some light stuff to start with, and then bang, but it's okay because I have 15 minutes of funny haha where we got to know each other and you started to like me before I earned the really dark joke. That's like another really interesting thing on just the psychology of comedy. I have so many jokes where if I had a 10-minute spot, I would never do them because they would bomb. Whereas if I have a 50-minute spot, I would put them at minute 30 and they'll fucking annihilate because I've earned a rapport with the audience and showed them that this isn't the only facet of my performance. There's also other silly things.